editing and never capture anything. Yeah, it's the worst. Sonny, welcome, man. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. You are highlighting some of our worst behavior as veterans and when we transition in civilian place. But the other thing that it's really intriguing is you have an unconventional path in your new life, in your new journey, your chapter 2, so to speak. So today, my man, I just wanted to dive in and sort of figure out where Sonny got his beginning.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for thanks for reaching out, you know.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So yeah, I guess if people are watching this, they know me from the comedy, a lot of it veteran based, or maybe based on a majority of it is based on my military experience. I never planned on joining the military. It's kind of funny. Didn't have military parents, didn't have any friends that joined. Um, Went to college, thought I'd be a scientist because my dad's a scientist. And I was like junior or senior in college and just kind of had a moment where I was like, this is just not for me. And somehow I think I stumbled across, I just didn't know what to do if I wasn't going to do science.
Yeah.
It's another one of those career paths that is very identity based, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So
Absolutely.
the concept of just getting a regular corporate job or something that my classmates that were outside of science was doing, I was like, that doesn't sound appealing at all. So somehow I stumbled across this book that was written by a guy in the CIA, actually. And I was like, man, this life just seems awesome.
Yeah.
And I looked at CIA jobs and it didn't seem like I was qualified for any of them. And I didn't want to join the CIA and be like a staff person, which is probably what most of them do. But in that book, he mentioned a lot of the people he served with were like prior military type people. So kind of out of curiosity, I kind of looked down that path and then applied to the officer candidate school program, which is kind of like the last, path to becoming an officer outside of West Point, the academies, and ROTC. Applied, got in, did basically just one contract as an infantry officer, and then kind of towards the end of that time, I started making videos for fun.
Yeah.
Kind of just a collection of a bunch of different things. Me going around in Alaska, which is where I was stationed, and then I didn't really make the skits about military stuff specifically, like making fun of it till I got out, of course. And it just kind of took off from there. I've been doing that ever since.
And not slowing down. No, you're dead on in a lot of your skits, man. And the one thing that I take away from a lot of them is the identity piece. Like we do some cool shit in the military, but it almost becomes that default mode and we just latch onto it. And I think it's very interesting to see, a young officer come out of the military and not want to go immediately into consulting and getting a job at Deloitte.
I think that's what most of my friends are doing. They're making a lot more money than me, probably, but
it has. We have to ask, man. Like, what's your passion? Like, I think a lot of, and I want to. I always open it up to like the enlisted. Always talking. It almost feels like I'm talking directly to the E5, the E6. But our officers struggle with the same thing. I think a lot of our young officers are told like, hey, you're going to get out of here. You're going to go consult. You're going to go to medical sales. You're going to do all these great things and make lots of money. But I mean, talking to some of my friends that got out as captains in SF, they never identified their purpose, their identity, or even just what made them happy. They just went immediately into like, all right, what can I make the most money?
Yeah, I think I can't really speak for everyone because I know some people are happy in those jobs. Like
Yeah.
they have a family, it allows them to live the lifestyle they want to. But I think it's something that is pretty underrated is that you do lose that when you get out. And it's weird because when I was in, I when I was on weekends or that time off. It's not like I walked around with, army t-shirts being like, this is my identity. So I didn't even think I really identified with it while I was in. It wasn't until I was out where I was like, now I'm just a dude,
Yeah.
um, and that does suck. So, and I think people that are in, because I have some buddies that are in, they of course don't understand that. And then people that are out, I think, especially if they go the consulting route, you can just kind of distract yourself with the work there and maybe not
Yeah.
have to confront that you're just, you're just on PowerPoint or Excel, and
Yeah.
that's it. So
Yeah. And it's not to talk down to anybody or, I mean, like, or say anything bad about it. It's just if you follow the path instead of asking yourself what your path is going to be, later down the road, it is going to have, you are going to have that moment of reckoning of like, oh shit, like I had this passion to do X, Y, and Z. Like, why didn't I do that? And
right.
I have to imagine because your career, like you didn't go all the way, you didn't become a major, you weren't doing the staff officer thing for in writing that. Like when you were transitioning, what were some of the things that you were doing in order to figure out what that next step was? If comedy was going to be your thing.
I mean, comedy just kind of came about naturally. I think from the videos, I'd say just creating things is more of the central passion. Comedy just happens to be one of those things. Uh, it's weird. I don't really think of myself as necessarily being passionate about comedy. I guess it just
Mm,
turns out that some of these videos happen to be funny, and I try to make them that way. But I don't
yeah.
really uh, set out kind of thinking like I don't know. I guess I don't think of myself as like a comedian or anything. But I just wanted to do my own thing. I knew that as I was getting out, and turns out it's a lot harder to immediately get out and just self fund yourself doing your own thing than it
Yeah.
looks like. But I just kind of found that while I was still in, luckily, and just kind of kept going with that because I just knew that. I mean, I didn't even know what consulting or banking was when I did an MBA program as soon as I got out. Just sort of a
Oh, no way.
classic officer thing to do as well. It's sort of you can just kind of procrastinate facing the world for another 2 years,
Yeah.
and but I didn't know what consulting or banking was, and I kind of showed up, maybe thinking more people would be trying to do their own thing, and didn't really find that was the case. So that's kind of how that came about.
No. Yeah, it's MBA is like one of the big things that is like highlighted and put in front of everybody's face. Like 10 friends that's like the thing they went straight through. Like it just almost seems like fuck, like this is a guarantee. This is a safety thing. It's like PMP, Scrum Master certification, and get an MBA.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like when you're going in this creative space, like it takes a lot of vulnerability to sit down and make this content and be willing to put yourself out there. Like, how did you first start trying? Like, did you just like share some and like try them out on a few friends, or were you just openly just sending them out and putting them out there for the public?
Um, yeah, I just started off sharing them with the public. Now, the only people that watched them, I think, in the beginning were my friends, and there
Yeah.
was the easiest way to share that with them. Like, especially with the skits, it was an easy way to send the link to all my friends or my soldiers and be like, they would know who I was talking about, without naming them. Like, oh, that's Captain so and so, or
Yeah.
Lieutenant Colonel so and so. And then I guess other people liked it as well because I just put it out to the public, and then it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah. What most people don't realize is there's a lot of work on the backside. There is definitely an entrepreneurial spirit in doing this stuff. Like if anybody's watching and they're finding themselves in this space, like how did you start putting together that framework for understanding like, okay, I have to put X amount of videos out, or I have to like this is something this is working, or the ones that don't trend, the ones that don't do good. Like how did you start putting together that like actual like formative, like, okay, like I gotta treat this like a job?
Yeah, that's only been a recent thing, actually. I think post MBA, I graduated last year, uh, because while I was in the MBA, it felt more like a hobby that
Mm,
and I did want all the sort of other projects I'm doing too to take off, but it felt, I had the GI Bill, I had some savings and stuff, so I didn't. I treated it more like a hobby. Like, okay, I've got uh, a few hours to work on this every day, and it was fun. And then I think once post MBA and it's felt more like a job, it definitely makes the creative process a lot more stressful because
Yeah.
now it becomes harder to just put out a video and just say, oh well, if it doesn't do that well, you know, who cares? It starts to get more stressful. So I definitely had like have to be a lot more kind of analytical about, okay, what's working, what's not working, what do people like to see, and then also like what am I having fun creating? Like I think my more recent videos are almost exclusively like a guy who's out of the military.
Yeah.
And my early stuff, even though I was out, was content that was a guy who's still in, because it was
Yeah.
fresh
Yeah.
in my mind. And then that's also a struggle because that's what blew me up in the first place. But I don't, wake up now and think about my battalion commander or think about going out to the field. I may throw like a fun video in there once in
Yeah.
a while when I'm talking to a friend and I'll remember a funny story. But yeah, that's just another challenge because you uh, start to realize like, oh, I don't enjoy this content anymore. And I want to change directions, but this is what's working. So
Yeah.
it's a tough process, man.
Like, how do you pivot? Yeah, that's the one thing that people don't understand. Um, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, and what sucks. I mean, I chose this. I don't want to, anyone watching this. I'm very grateful that people watch my videos. I know I'm very privileged that this is a problem that I have, and not, a more, serious life-threatening problem. But um, yeah, there's no like guidebook. There's no guaranteed. I wouldn't say the army was easy,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of things that they told you, hey, if you do this, if you run this fast, if you
The
you
structure.
can,
There was structure.
yeah,
There was a
you
format.
do this many push-ups. There's a manual for everything. So even if you mess something up, you can say, okay, well, I followed the doctrine, or whatever it was called. So uh, follow the Ranger handbook, all that fun stuff. So on the outside, it's like you can, it's like playing poker or something. You can like do all the right things and just still lose on a video, or have a bad week, and that's, I think, the tough part.
Yeah.
And then you go out and you go from saying I was I'm an army infantry guy to just being like, hey, I make TikTok videos. So
Like, and it's crazy, right? Like we struggle with the identity piece of like, I was fucking somebody. I was a PL. I had dudes that friggin' look up to me. I had people that like depended on me, and we had like a family. Now I'm on the outside. Now I'm making content that I want them to laugh. I want them to feel good. Like, oh shit, he represents us. Like, do you feel like your path and what you're doing right now, do you think it's helped in your transition as you're transitioning in your videos? You, like you just mentioned, like you're no longer making videos if you're that army guy. Now you're the guy that's on the outside. Do you feel like that creative process helped you in your transition, sort of like pack up the uniform?
yeah, I think so. I mean, most of my videos are just things that are either annoyed at, or you know frustrated with, or
Yeah.
that I find annoying. So that definitely helps. That if I'm like, man, this kind of sucks sometimes. It's like, oh, cool, I can make a video about it, and maybe someone will relate to that. Like I made one that was shared quite a bit called "Depressed Veteran in Corporate,"
Oh yeah.
and I don't know if you've seen that video,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it did a decent amount of views, and I didn't. I mean, I didn't really think anything of it. Really, I was just like, this is how I feel right now, a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm just making uh, Excel stuff, or and I think a lot of people related to that, so it does help.
Yeah. No, you're identifying things that I think are common across the board for all of us. whether you were an 88 Mike or an 18 Alpha. Like when you step out of uniform and you're no longer like even all the things you hate, PowerPoints, the sit reps, all those things that you hate. At some point, you get to the other side, and you're asking yourself, like, ah, man, like this kind of sucks. Like I look back at all the things I used to do, and now I'm just like, there are good moments, but man, it's not like being surrounded by the dudes and being able to like look at that overall big mission and say, yeah, I identify with that. Like I know I'm making a
Right.
difference.
Yeah, 100%.
No, it's definitely one of the videos that I know because it got sent to me, and I'm like, oh fuck, dude, like you're speaking to everybody right now. Like in your life in this moment, do you find yourself able to reach out and like give hope to other like individuals within your own circle? Kind of like reach out with that battle buddy and being like, hey man, like I'm feeling this moment. That's why I made this clip.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the videos are just inspired by conversations with friends or phone calls and things like that. We'll just kind of relate over something, and I'm like, that would make a good video, if they're feeling the same way. Uh, so it helps. I don't feel like I think about the army that much, which might sound weird to people that you know
Hmm.
know me from the army, but I'll just uh, a lot of it is just like, okay, I don't want to go back in. I got out for very good reasons. Don't regret that. But it's like, okay, how do you find something that's even more exciting or like better overall than that? So
Yeah.
that's definitely drives a lot of the creative process.
Yeah. And we gotta, I want to, this podcast, we jump back and forth on so many things, but what was the reason for you to decide to separate? Because a lot of people tend to think that officers are like, oh, you come in, you're going to at least stay until you're a lieutenant colonel, at least make it to like, you get that 1 star. Like, what was the big thing? Like, or was it just it wasn't what you wanted to do anymore?
Yeah, I mean that was just a big part of it. I think people think sometimes I get asked there's some dramatic reason. It was just I got I did my platoon leader time. I did very little time in staff actually, which
Nice.
was nice. So I think you know, I got a lot of comments on the depressed veteran video that knew I was an officer saying, "Didn't you do this the entire time while you're in?" I was like, "Not really," um, but I know a lot of officers do that.
Yeah.
I because I spent a year and a half in TRADOC on the whole train up, like because I did officer candidate school, so I did basic training, officer
Hmm.
candidate school, infantry officer school, ranger school. Um, Showed up, and we were doing EIB as soon as I showed up, so I did that, and then like a month later, I was a platoon leader, and then we were training up for NTC, so National Training Center for the non. I don't know if there's Marines there too. There might be, but
Yeah.
uh, National Training Center, and then soon after that, we got picked up for a deployment, and then I got a second platoon as the mortar platoon leader.
Oh yeah.
Um, Deployed. Now, our deployment wasn't, 2005 Iraq or anything, but we got to spend some time on a cop, and that's some of the best time I've ever had. Like, we're just watching like Eastbound and Down, working out outside in a
Yeah.
prison gym. Uh, and then that's about when I decided like this is kind of probably the end of it. Like
Yeah.
either I try out for special forces or uh, get out.
Yeah.
And I just figured, okay, I don't think there's anything left for me here that I'm motivated by. I found out I like making videos, and then that's just kind of got out.
Yeah. Having that background as going to school for science, did you ever think going back, knowing that, it's something that you loved or at least thought you loved at one point, or was it like immediately, okay, MBA?
Yeah, the MBA was suggested to me by a senior officer who actually went to law school, but he suggested like, hey, because I did the officer candidate
Hmm.
route, I still had like my full GI Bill. So he's like, hey man, if you don't have like a clear idea of what you want to do, this could be uh, a good path. So I mean, I knew I wanted to do my own thing, but I didn't really know how to make that a reality as soon as I left the army. So I figured the MBA would be a good way to kind of transition out.
Yeah. And where did you go for your MBA program?
NYU in New York City.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So
Damn.
it was
Break
nice,
that
man.
break
What's
that
that?
down for us, because that seems magical. I've I've had some bum ass friends do some like sketchy ass MBAs. I'm going to an online
Hey,
MBA
nothing
program.
wrong with that. Um, so no, it was good because there was a veterans club at NYU. So most of my friends from NYU are from the veterans club, and what was nice about that is everyone's in the uh, same timeline too. Like everyone, even if they got out at different times, like some people did 8 years, some people did 4, some were in prior enlisted. Um, so, but everyone like ends up in the NBA at the same spot. Like for the most part, I think 90% of the veterans there had just gotten out. So uh, you're kind of with similar people,
Yeah.
and that's actually one of the struggles now that I'm out of the NBA is out here in the real world, as they say. Uh, there's no like group of people who are in the same
uh,
like timeline you are. Like
yeah.
like uh, that was one of the nice things in the army that actually I think was cool was that all your peers are in the same like, especially with officers. There's like a year group kind of
Yep.
thing, so you're literally with people the same age. You're progressing depending on what you end up doing, more or less at the same kind of like rate. So you never feel too
Yeah.
bad about where you are. But then out here, it's like, I'm trying to make videos, TikTok, you see some like 20-year-old who's already a millionaire and you're like, man, like, and
Bro.
I don't have anyone to, that's, other
Oh yeah.
people my age who are like, oh yeah, we also got out. We're all creating videos. You're in the same group as us. It's just me. So I think that's a really
Dude, absolutely.
underrated part because I think people when I hear about the struggles, like I didn't see combat. Took some IDF,
Hmm.
and I think people and that's the struggle that I can't speak on. Seeing
Yeah.
combat and struggling with that, and I won't speak on it because that's just not my
Yeah. It's
story.
not your lived experience, and that's
But I
okay.
think I heard some statistic get a little dark for a second, but I heard some statistic that was. Are you familiar with PB Abate
Oh yeah.
Foundation?
Yes,
Yeah,
I am.
so
Yeah.
know a lot of the guys that are in that, and they were talking about how the suicide rate, the perception is that it would be highest among combat veterans, um, and that just turns out not to be the case. And
Nope.
so I think what's kind of annoying is when people think that the struggle is simply, oh, you saw something in the army that you like couldn't get past. That could be it for some people. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I think it's all these other little things like the timeline thing. No one's now in your same like group progressing at the same thing. Um, there's no like good measuring stick anymore. It's like uh, I have like a separate clothing brand thing, and same thing. You'll see some 22-year-old who like is a millionaire. And it's like, oh my god, like am I like an idiot?
Yeah. Sonny, you're
So
you're you're speaking right at at my
so
core.
it's a lot of like those kind of things
Yeah.
that aren't talked about that I think are actually for me tougher than I shooting machine guns was awesome. Which for those people that are like, oh, you're an officer, I shot machine guns sometimes.
Listen up, you nerds.
Yeah,
Officers
yeah,
do work too. They get
yeah,
their hands dirty. The good ones do.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes, um,
When
no,
it's
but
convenient.
yeah, but it's like no, I don't necessarily miss that. That's cool. I can also go and I'm out in Tennessee now, so there's some cool guys out here that own all sorts
Yeah.
of things. So uh, it's not just that. It's like the whole all the little stuff that's like having like a group of people who are doing the exact same thing you are, showing up
Yeah.
to an office where or a company cough whatever, where people are doing the same thing. It's all that stuff that you don't get when you leave when you get out. So
Yeah. Dude, absolutely. There's no reporting to the podcast company to sit
right,
down and bounce ideas. But the beautiful thing that I found is, being a Green Beret, you're always looking for the team room. That's something that guys always talk about. Like, I don't have a team room anymore. I don't have a team room anymore. I don't have fucking an 18 Bravo or an 18 Delta to hang out with. I don't have a freaking warrant. Like, yeah, it's true. But when you start looking, when you start reaching out, like when you start connecting with people, you'll be surprised the friendships and brotherhoods you can, like right now, I have something cooking with an amazing SEAL that I just met by chance. Just met
Right.
my chance, and it was like your brand of autism matches with my brand of autism. I don't know
Right.
what I'm doing. I know this much, and you know this much. Let's combine efforts, and at least two mentally challenged, freaking hard hitting dudes, we can get a little further. But what you just said, dude, man, it speaks to the heart of everybody out there that's doing it. And again, like I'll shout these guys out to the so I'm blue in the face. Triple Nickel. These guys have built a clothing brand. Now it's a full-fledged powerhouse. They're doing shit that I'm dreaming of doing. And how did it come together? Guys sticking together, coming together, coalescing as a team and saying, hey, man, I'm going to fucking do this until the wheels fucking fall off. Are you in? And they're like, yeah, bet. Let's go.
That's
Like,
cool.
and that's one of the greatest things and I can tell you, man, like, dude, like, keep doing your craft and reaching out and try. Like I'm trying to do the same fucking thing, and it sucks. It gets lonely. It does get
Dude,
going.
yes. I'm doing all this stuff. I'd started this the clothing brand actually with an army buddy of mine. Had a little falling out, and like, yeah, when you're doing this stuff by yourself, it's brutal. Yeah, you
Yeah,
just you don't have a team. You have to put in. You know, it's weird. I was always in an environment. Again, privileged thing to say. I was always in an environment, high school, college, army, MBA, where you didn't have to try and make friends or like
yeah.
have like you just all my friends in the army were either my soldiers, hung out with the E4s sometimes. I can say that now. Uh, uh,
When you were
yeah,
invited into the E4 clique, that just shows how much of a fucking good dude you are. That is a hard friendship, which that is hard to
yeah,
earn. Uh,
yeah,
Tip my hat to you, sir.
yeah. Technically, I think a little bit out of the rules, but I don't think they'll get me for that now. Um, but or other, some other lieutenants and stuff. And now it's like you have to like really make an effort, like you were saying,
Yeah,
to go and connect with people. And then a really tough thing too is you have this experience that's so different from, uh, especially if you're like something infantry related. Like I showed up to the NBA, and a lot of the there's some awesome civilian friends. Anyone listening to this, I highly suggest you do make civilian friends so that you're not like
yeah.
you don't become completely mentally challenged. Um, but there's still like a I don't know what it is. I'm not a psychologist, but I do feel like there's some psychological difference between the type of person who would want to go infantry and just
Yeah.
you know someone who just went out of college and worked a corporate job. Doesn't make me better or worse or anything, but it's just different, and
Hmm.
that makes it hard to relate. You have to like put in a lot of effort. Sometimes these veteran groups can be hit or miss. Like they're not the right brand of veteran for the
Yeah.
individual. Like sometimes I'll hang out with guys who were like early 2000, especially through this comedy stuff. I've been able to link up with some of those guys like early 2005, like height of the
Yeah.
war type, or 2010 Afghanistan. And it's like, sometimes I get along with them. Sometimes they just want other guys that were also in that time to talk to. And I'm like, man,
Mm,
I can't
can't
really,
relate.
can't relate to this. Um, so yeah, it's tough.
Dude, we have to start understanding that our veteran experience shouldn't come with exceptions. So I like talking with veterans, but only if they're like, they saw some real shit. And I'm like, dude, your worst day is your worst day. His worst day is his worst day. Like at the end of the day, like I want to be part of a fucking team. I want to be part of a community. I want to be able to hang out with cool fucking people, good people. And if it means hanging out with people that never served or never saw combat, that's fucking awesome because they're going to bring a
Yeah.
different perspective.
Yeah. I would say, one of the best things recently, I went to a wedding, out in Hawaii, actually. Awesome. And the groom was a buddy of mine from NYU, who is like a West Point guy,
Mm-hmm.
Army guy. So like all the groom's side guys were all either West Point, Army, some way military at some point. And what was awesome was just we didn't really talk about the army at all, with any of them. Like there was a quick like, hey, where are you stationed and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But then what was nice was like, oh, okay. Like I know he like knows, like, I don't know, there's something there. It's like, okay, we're similar uh, in that way. I don't really know how to explain it, but that's the kind of like fraternity or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's just so hard to get on the
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. You have to, it takes a lot of work. You got to be willing to put yourself and be a little vulnerable. Like, and did I do it? I struggled with the same thing. I go to a gym and I don't want to interact with anybody. And who do I interact with? The one other Green Beret that happens to be here.
Right.
Because you see each other and you're like, is that a group, dude? Sure as shit. In the middle of nowhere in Alabama. Like, oh, okay, sweet, awesome. But then
Yeah.
after that, you like have a great time and freaking you're working out, and then you're like, wait a second. This whole gym is filled with other human beings. Why did I only talk to this one guy? It's like, oh, because I'm scared of being open and just meeting regular people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's difficult, but it's worth noting that every day you wake up, and then this to anybody listening, man, like I understand the difficulties. I deal with it every single day. Be willing to engage with one new person. Be willing to talk. Like I did it today. Didn't want to, but I freaking did it. And the guy was pretty cool. Because you don't want to live a life where you're just excluding 90% of the people around you in hopes
Right.
you meet one fucking veteran.
Right.
Yeah, dude. What are the other endeavors that you're involved in?
So really, right now, I'm doing comedy, and then which is a blessing because I never, I'm not. Uh, you always hear with these creative people, like since I was 10 years old, I wanted to be. Man, I don't know. I've just always wanted to try new things, so I was never the class clown or anything like that. I just think these skits were fun to make, and they took off, and it's something that is I see it potentially going somewhere fun. So
Yeah,
I'm keeping up with it. I'm probably gonna slowly pivot out of doing more military stuff and just do funny videos or things
yeah.
I think are funny. For example, one that did very well on Instagram was a depressed hostage. I don't know if you saw that video.
No, not yet.
Um, but it's you don't have to be military to understand it. It's just
No.
two guys are interrogating a hostage, and turns out he's depressed. So it kind of like they're like they start cheering him up,
Yeah.
uh,
That,
uh,
yeah, that's my brand of humor.
yeah. And then once he's cheered up, they resume waterboarding him. So now that he has something to live for. Um, so stuff like that. I think I want to do more of. I've thought of trying stand up. I have no idea where this comedy thing is going. I have a kind of unrelated, like adventure kind of call it adventure. I don't know what to call it, like fashion themed kind of mixed with like luxury adventure, if you want to call
Mm,
it, clothing brand.
yeah.
I'm dropping these sunglasses for it. I'll do a shameless plug for it.
Nice. Hell yeah, dude.
So based on these vintage like James Bond style.
I take
Uh,
that.
yeah. So it's another just thing that I also have to like keep going. But it's something like I get excited to work on
Yeah.
much more than thinking of working at McKinsey or again, no hate to those,
Yeah.
no hate to anyone that works there. They're definitely making more money than me, but um, yeah, I just couldn't get excited to wake up and do just grind in a corporate ladder.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I have going on.
Yeah. And I have to ask, was there some pushback from your family when you're like, hey, I have a very unconventional approach for how I want to take my next chapter in life?
I mean, thankfully now I'm a big boy, an adult. They kind of they let me they're supportive of my dreams, but they're definitely like this is probably the worst part of the creative journey is when you're doing the thing, but you really haven't made it big yet, and
Yeah.
so you're in this like in between world of like you're not at a super prestigious job, you're also not killing it with this thing, and you just have to tell people like yeah, I make these TikToks, and I'm hoping so they're supportive, but hopefully this will just be a funny story about the struggle later on. So
Yeah. Dude, is there, what do you take inspiration from outside of, lived experience? Is there something that, are you following or reading something daily in order to give those inspirations, or just keep going? That's one thing that everybody has is their go-to like guide, whether it's faith or stoicism. Everybody has that one thing. And, not to bash on our general officers, but everybody has their book or guide that they go through. Is there something that you lean on?
man, that's a good question. I think that's a struggle of mine because you know the daily struggle is like to me is what I feel like I need is like tactical advice. Like
Yeah.
uh, 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 okay, this video didn't do as well as I thought. Is pivoting the right move? Are these sunglasses going to work? Am I going to, live under a bridge? And, what the advice I would like is like, hey, you need to do X, Y, Z tomorrow,
Yeah.
And so faith definitely does help just to, keep waking up. But I try to look at people that are already kind of successful doing it
Yeah.
that I find inspiring and just really try not to think too down the line,
Yeah.
um, as much as I can anyway, and just focus on like, okay, here's a video this guy made. I think it's funny, or I think this is inspiring. I'm going to see if I can take anything from that. Um, Kind of a vague answer, but I guess in short, no, I don't have it like one thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it seems like we need to create the tactical creators guide.
Right? Yeah, yeah. How to keep waking up. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, it's self-doubt can creep in there, but it's okay to take inspiration from, you know, anything that you hear from, I put out a lot of mental health tips, how to keep going, keep moving forward, fail fast. And that can be used whether it's, you're creating something on social media, on YouTube, or you're going through school. Like, keep your head in the game, keep moving, keep grinding, and don't lose hope, man. Like, it's hard to sit there and not feel discouraged when you don't get those likes, when your videos don't do well. But at the end of the day, look at the good. Look at this. Look at the positive. You're still crushing it. There are people out there that would kill for one of your videos, for one of your videos views. So knowing that and putting that into perspective of like, holy shit, there's somebody out there who's just starting this journey. Like you were there just a few years ago. And looking at how you format, how you continue to create, like that there's no reason to believe that you're not going to break through and you're going to be receiving emails from me asking for a intro to some of your friends for podcast guests.
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It's a nice thing to say. Yeah. Yeah, the stuff is tough. There's no like, I mean, you asking about like the guide thing is funny because that is the struggle. There is no
No.
easy, um, you know, there is no easy guide. I do feel like finding the friend group is a big thing, but it's tough when they're not doing the same thing. Like I don't
Yeah.
have a group of 5 friends who are all trying to create funny videos,
Yeah.
and maybe that's on me a little bit of not like, hey, I need to reach out more, find people uh, uh, who are doing stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think we got to create a community of veteran creators. And I know it sounds crazy. We just talked about not being exclusive and opening it up, but there is an important thing about creating a community of people that transitioned, are out there doing something that's artistic, that's creative, whether it's writing a book, whether it's writing a comic book, doing sketches, doing funny videos, because I'm seeing the kids that are successful doing it. And that's what they're doing. They're
right.
collaborating, they're coalescing around each other, forming these teams. I mean, there's something to be said about creating your own ODA of creatives on the outside. I think that there's something to it. because you find somebody that's a specialty in maybe doing short film. Maybe that's something that I'm seeing a lot more. There's a lot more of us out there wanting to get behind the lens, or wanting to write, wanting to script, wanting to create TikTok videos. And if we can all connect, if we can all support, that only gives more fuel to everybody. And I think that we also need to remember, like, there are people out there watching that want to get where you're at, that have seen the success. So don't lose hope, and just keep creating things that are genuine and authentic to you. And that's to anybody listening out there that is finding themselves in the same space. Because just like any other career field, you can get to the point where you're wanting to give up, where you're wanting to pivot, when you're wanting to just say, fuck it. And I'm here to tell you, just don't. Like when you're in selection, when you're in RASP, you always tell yourself, we'll quit tomorrow. So today, Sonny and myself are telling you, quit tomorrow. Make it through the day, quit tomorrow.
Yeah, that's easier said than done on the outside, I think. But
hey, grab a hold of the rucksack,
yeah,
and keep moving together.
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough, man. Especially when you know, I wouldn't say my identity is tied to TikTok videos, but it is you know, it's part of what I want to do. So it's brutal. And when you you know, you make something and it doesn't work out the way you do, you know, if I had like a bad field problem or something in the Army, it's not like I went home and I was like, I'm completely worthless as a person, completely, you know. Whereas somehow that feels more the case when you make a Bond video. It's just like, man, I'm gonna do it today, man. You know, like, you know. So
no, man, it's being able to look at the flip side of it. Hey, I figured out what didn't work.
Right.
I figured out what content just doesn't work. Like, and continue going, continue pushing forward. The reality is, like, people, specifically in the veteran space, seek out this comedy because it's probably helping them get through their worst day. They had a shitty day at work. They had a shitty day going through transition briefs with people that don't give a shit about them. When they get on the outside, they open up their app, and for a brief moment, they're able to laugh. And that, my friend, is fucking powerful. That is something to remember, to keep creating, to keep going forward. The shit that you're doing helps somebody relieve a little stress and keep fighting on. And I truly believe that. I know that I have had those moments even before I got out. And that's why, like, I still to this day, I inject my podcast throughout my Instagram, but I always stay with the memes. Why? Because I know when I couldn't talk to anybody, when I was going through the absolute worst moments of my nightmare, a meme just got me to laugh. Or in a team room, guys are dealing with so much shit, they're not willing to talk about it, but they'll share memes back and forth, and it keeps them keeps them engaged.
Yeah, no, I have to. I actually at this wedding ended up there was some, you know, party, like after party kind of thing we went to, and there was someone not in the wedding who saw me from my videos, and it's hard to know when I'm creating these videos sometimes, like what people are thinking. And yeah, he said that, which was pretty amazing. He's like, hey man, I was going through a rough time, saw your videos, cheered me up. I was like, oh my god, like I didn't even know that anyone, like, I just make these videos from my bedroom, house, whatever, and didn't realize that people are connecting with it, which is awesome. So that's definitely something that was like, man, I need to like keep that in mind. And then I think try to remind myself, like, I'm supposed to have fun doing this. When you get caught up with the money thing, you can definitely lose track of that. And it is important, if you're trying to make money doing it, to be a little analytical about it. But I think sometimes I'm like, I'm supposed to like enjoy this. Funny enough, when I was in Ranger School, like, so I did the extended stay at Ranger School. Did you go through the school at all?
No, God, okay. No. You couldn't pay me to go to fucking Ranger School after making it through the fucking Q course. I was I was adamant about that.
But what's funny is, so I recycled mountains. So I had to do it again, and this was in the winter. And I just remember, I was like, the kind of the first half I was in Ranger school, I was, it's highly expected as an infantry officer, you'll get a Ranger tab and stuff. So
Yep.
all the time I was thinking like, I have to get a go because, this will be, this is my career, blah, blah, blah. That's what I was thinking of. Like, get a patrol that like, uh, wasn't going very well, and I get frustrated because all I could think about was this is maybe gonna be a no go, and I'm gonna get recycled or dropped or something. And funny enough, when I did mountains the second time, I didn't think about any of that. I wouldn't say I had fun doing it, you know, at
Yeah.
all. I was like miserable my second mountains as well, but I just stopped caring about any of that. I started like thinking it was kind of funny that it was raining on us, 24/7. Um, and I didn't even think about, of course, I was trying to do the right thing, sorry about that, get a go and whatnot. But weirdly is when I just didn't think about any of that. And I was like, this is just funny. Like we're
Yeah.
getting rained on. I've got to get 40 guys to, uh, walk up this mountain. I think I was platoon leader for one of that. I got 40 guys to stay motivated to walk another, 4 hours at midnight. And weirdly enough, when I started thinking like that, like this is kind of funny, I did better.
Yeah.
So sometimes you kind of need that approach
Yeah. Embracing the suck.
as best as you can. Yeah, I was never like delusionally motivated where I was like one of those guys that's like, come on guys, like we got to build a terrain model today. But I was like, I'd get up and be like, yeah, this is, if someone's like walking over to the terrain model, it's muddy, and they just slipped and like took out like half the terrain model, because it was
Yeah.
wet, and I just like started laughing. I was like, this is absurd. um, but weirdly, that like kind of like helped me keep going. So
Yeah. Removes the pressure. Just
yeah,
can, yeah. That's half the battle in this thing. Just being able to have fun with it, being able to say, you know what, like, okay, I'm not Sean Ryan. I'm not going to be Sean Ryan. I'm just here to spread a little bit of positivity and some poop and cum jokes. That's it.
exactly.
Dude, Sonny, thank you so much for joining us today, man. It's awesome that you're willing to share your story, be vulnerable. I think people often think that when you're in front of the camera, you're this person 24/7, and often more often than not, like it's almost like you have to be a character. You have to portray this person that's like 100% happy, always positive, motivated. It's like at the end of the day, when you walk out of the camera, like this isn't Denny all the time. Denny is a
Right.
real human being that
Yeah.
does more than just podcasting.
Right.
And so
He's
is Sonny.
also depressed, sad.
Yes, absolutely. All
Yeah.
range of shit, man. And
Yeah. Cries
it's
at night sometimes, Obviously that's not me,
never do that. Never,
No,
never.
that's
While biting down my pillow to muffle my cries. Oh man, but yeah, dude, it's awesome that you're willing to be here and show, the full spectrum of Sunny. Being able to show people that, yeah, man, like you can do whatever the hell you want to do. You just have to be brave enough and continue moving forward. That's something that a lot of people aren't comfortable doing, and that's okay. Everybody finds it in their own time, and I'm here to tell you that, hey, it's not always easy, but a life worth living has to come with discomfort. It has to come with difficulty, because I've seen what a life full of comfort leads you to be. A fat, medicated piece of shit sitting on a couch judging everybody, and I don't want to do that. I don't want that life. And I
No,
hope
it's funny. All my veteran friends, one of them base jumps
yeah,
now, and I think 80% of the people he base jumps with, by pure accident, also happen to be other like former soft guys.
yeah.
And he's joking. He's like, "This is what I need to do to feel alive now." I gotta. I've literally got to jump off a bridge
Yeah.
with a parachute. Um, uh,
Good disclaimer. Thank you.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I think if you find that crowd, I scuba dive a lot. That's a ton of fun. And I think, yeah, if you force yourself to keep doing uh, hard things, or just exciting things, I think, you'll be able to keep going.
Hell yeah. Dude, before we go, please let us know how people can find you, interact with you, and your latest business, please.
Yeah, so Sunny Actual on TikTok, Instagram. I think it's The Real Sunny on YouTube. But something Sunny we'll find hopefully on all the platforms. The brand
Don't
is
worry, I'll put it all in the episode description. So,
yeah, fashion brand Zuvir. It's not a military brand at all. Although I think some of the adventure type extreme sports maybe that I sprinkle in there could be appealing. And yeah, I appreciate anyone who watches my stuff. It means a lot. Yeah, it's awesome that people are watching something that I just put out from my apartment. So
yeah. Well, it's awesome, man. People gravitate to it because it's relatable, it's funny, and you come across and you are a real authentic human being that doesn't bullshit, man. And I think in today's world where you can't really connect with anybody, I think your audience and certainly anybody that tunes in on the show can see this as a real man trying to put a little bit of good out in the world through humor. So I appreciate it. I know your audience appreciates it. And I can't thank you enough for coming on today, brother. And
dude,
yeah,
thanks so much for having me on, man. It's a pleasure talking to you.
absolutely. And to everybody listening at home, please follow Sonny and go to YouTube, like, subscribe to his stuff and my stuff too. I need it as well. But
Yeah.
thank y'all for tuning in.
What did I say on YouTube? Comment, like, subscribe. I need to start putting that in hit the notification button.
I fuck that up all the time, but you know what? Hey,
Yeah.
we're still learning. We'll still do it.
Leave a hate comment too. That boosts. I think that boosts my views too. Whatever.
Yeah. Go to Security Halt YouTube and leave the most derogatory thing you can about Panamanians. That'll help with the analytics. I'm sure of it.
Awesome, man.
Oh, thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.